In this lesson, we're going to cover the 5 parameters of ASL phonology. Maybe that sounds boring, but it is important, very important. So the 5 parameters refer to the ASL phonological rules about hand shapes. English, of course, has its own phonology based on sound. Think of the sounds of letters, the vowels A, E, I, O, U, Y. They all have different sounds. We have vowels, we have consonants, and we have 26 letters to our alphabet. So from that, based on sound, we create words and spell them with our alphabet. Now, similar phonological rules apply to hand shapes in American Sign Language. Based on how we combine them, movement, those kinds of things, we create meaning. In English, you can't just put any sound together. Some will not make sense, right? They don't have meaning. The same is true in ASL. The 5 parameters are position, movement, location, where the sign is actually performed, palm orientation, and non-manual markers, facial grammar. Mistakes in the parameters often changes the meaning of the sign or classifier. I have a very embarrassing story to tell. You'd think this was something easy that people would learn their lessons, but when my daughter was 5 and in kindergarten, her class were being taught how to sing Silent Night in sign language. So my daughter came home and she was practicing, and I said, sure, show me your signs, show me the song. She already knew some signs anyway, and then she signed this, sleep in heavenly peace. And I asked her, do that again. And she said, okay, well, here. I was gobsmacked at what I saw. I said, who taught you to sign it that way? And she said, well, my teacher did. And I thought, okay, she's only 5. I don't really want her to feel bad or know what that really means. So I made an appointment with the teacher. Of course, she's hearing. And she was learning her sign language from a book. And I said, I just wanted to help out a little bit with clarifying the meaning of that sign. And she said, well, that sign means in. I said, no, that sign does not mean in. And she said, look, here in the book, it says in. And I said to her, the deaf community would not really be happy with you using that sign for in. And she got all defensive. And she said, well, no, look at the book. And I said, you're misunderstanding the book. And you're teaching all these young little kids the wrong sign, and anyone deaf or has knowledge of sign language sitting in that audience is going to see you having your children sign anal sex. Well, of course, she didn't like that. If you want to make the sign for in, you have to do it like this. This is the hand shape. So she didn't understand, or she ignored the 5 parameters of ASL. Didn't realize how important a hand shape is. It means something different if you do it in a different way. So if you want the audience to think your class of kindergarteners is signing anal sex when they're signing silent night, that's just not appropriate. So lesson learned, everyone should be careful. But the same thing happens in spoken languages. You can mispronounce a word and it will come out wrong and mean something different, or an accent sometimes makes the word sound inappropriate. Okay, so let's move on to hand shape. You see I'm using 2 different hand shapes here, but I see lots of people interchanging those signs. This is me, that's a person, this is my or mine, meaning possession, something that belongs to me, my book, my cup. I have seen it over and over again that people use this sign when they just mean me. Like if they're going my, oh, what's yours? And oh, I'm talking about me. So these are the kinds of common mistakes I've seen related to hand shape. This is performed or pronounced like this. Index finger classifier. People do it like the letter D, which is confusing. I think you may consider it pretty much the same thing, but you're not. You can't have a person walking down the street when you're signing the letter D. People won't know what you're doing. They're thinking you're signing dolphin, maybe. I don't know. Another common mistake is confusion between E and O handshape. So sometimes I see people making this sign with more like the E hand shape when they mean the O hand shape, and they're signing, for example, degree or diploma. So it has to be the rounded O. Palm orientation, it's really important. So the common mistakes you see with palm orientation, here's table. So you see palm orientation for both hands is down. If people get nervous and stuff, sometimes that'll be a mistake they'll make in terms of setting up their palm orientation. Location, another important parameter. It has to be within the signing space, which is typically, your torso to the top of your head and about the width of your shoulders. It's also important to know if you have directional verbs that you're using, which direction you're coming and going to in that verb. And of course, it still has to be in the signing space. You can't be signing way out in front of you or behind you. So location is another thing you should pay attention to in terms of where the sign is pronounced. Common mistakes for this parameter, that people are not specific enough. In movies, you'll see this sign, right? Well, it's a gesture, right? I'm looking at you, but that's not a sign. It's the wrong location. for looking, for seeing. First of all, you wouldn't have a sign like that because it blocks your face, blocks your mouth. So location can be sometimes the problem. And then for that sign, for that gesture, it is also the wrong hand shape because we use more of a K hand shape. And don't put it on your nose because that means penis, okay? Put it up beside your eyes if you want to say, for instance, see you later. But if you put that hand shape in the wrong location, put it on your nose, you're saying something very different. This is another one. I don't actually know what you mean by that. And the location was wrong. It needed to be up on the side of the shoulder, meaning responsibility. But the location was wrong, and so you couldn't understand what they were saying. Again, movement, very important. Happy. Happy, the movement is up. But the same hand shape, and I can use two hands or one hand and say enjoy or please. It depends on my context, right? Same palm orientation, same hand shape, same location, but movement is different. Different movement, different meaning. Common mistakes in this parameter, like I'm using this sign for death, glossed as death, one palm orientation up, one down. Compared to the sign bet. So in the sign death, my dominant hand palm orientation is down. My non-dominant hand palm orientation up, and then you flip the hands. It's different than bet, where there's more symmetry. That's a mistake I see fairly often. We've talked about the importance of non-manual markers, facial grammar, where we use our eyes, our mouth, our eyebrows. This one compared to this one. Same sign, but the mouth, the facial grammar tells you more. This is, I'm sorry I'm late. And that one's more an accusation. You're late. Same sign, but different facial grammar. So the mistakes we see in this area is that people aren't using enough facial grammar. See a sign, but we don't know what they're referring to. So the face is kind of dead. Masks, of course, hard on us. If you can't see the facial expressions, it's really hard to know what's being said sometimes. And you have to second guess or have to ask for clarification. Another example of where this doesn't work is for avatars that use sign language. You'll see these sometimes on movies or on the computer, but their facial expression does not fit with whatever is signing. Video games too, you'll see that there's not that much facial grammar when they're using sign language. But they are out there on the net, signing avatars. This is a cool YouTube video. Really cool. It shows you a lot more about facial grammar and non-manual markers, so I encourage you to watch that. Okay, have a great one.